Zach Kruger put out all of these stats, which I found fascinating yesterday, which went back to college for Sam Howell.
Turns out he's a big Junks P1, by the way. Thank you for listening. Appreciate that. And watching.
And he actually had some positive things to say on this thread. The thread was like 15 tweets deep or something like that. But what it came down to in college and in the pros so far is that when he faces pressures, it doesn't matter if it's a running back missing it or an offensive line. Just when he faces pressures in general, he's taking sacks at a higher rate than other quarterbacks. He compared him to Kenny Pickett, for example, at a similar number of pressures. And yet he's only taken 9 sacks versus the 19 that Howell has taken.
Right.
I think that is such a correctable thing that hopefully they give him enough of a rope to show that. I think that's correctable to learn to throw it away. If your read's not there, throw it away. Or
how quickly does he learn to correct it?
Right, he needs to learn quick.
6 weeks.
He's not going to get 2 years.
It's not going to happen overnight.
But I think that's correctable, in my opinion.
What's weird about it is, so he looked at his college numbers and looked at the pressures in college among Power 5 quarterbacks. In 2019, he was 15th, then 8th, then 6th. And you don't want to go in that direction in terms of percentage of dropbacks with some responsibility for pressure. So he put himself under more pressure every season. Look, I agree with you. When you look at like the seconds, like I saw Ryan O'Halloran, who used to work here. Now he works for the Bills. He put out how many seconds it was for the Bills to get to Sam Howell on all 9 sacks. So first sack was 3.2. The second one was 3.96.
Okay.
You know, you can go through all of them. There was a couple in the 2s. One was 2.26.
That's quick.
And one was 2.89. There was one that was 4.06, whatever. He went through all of them. And just looking at that is, to me, can be strange because what if you're flushed out of the pocket? Now all of a sudden that's 4 seconds.
Right, you're buying time with your legs.
And sometimes you make a throw like Josh Allen, made a great play rolling to his right, hit Stephon Diggs. He probably held the ball for 4 or 5 seconds.
Montez Sweat was so close to him, just couldn't get him.
They were killing him.
That's where, though, the number which jumped out at me in that chain is the percentage of sacks you're taking versus the total amount of pressures. And he seems to be higher than everybody.
All I will say is this, is the quarterback that was here last year that didn't perform well, we had the exact same criticism. He holds the ball too long. We also threw in inaccurate, right, which is fair. But in an offensive line, hold on, and offensive line issues.
Correct.
And this year we have the same 2 of those 3 factors. I think Howell's more accurate, but we're criticizing him for holding the ball too long. It would be nice if our quarterback around here had some freaking time to throw. That's all I'm saying. This is not a new problem.
You blame Ron
we can
for
all
that.
blame Sam Howell, and go ahead. 5th round pick, he sucks. I don't think that, but I know a lot of you do. We need to protect our quarterbacks around here.
No doubt about it.
We had a guy. I mean, I know you guys think he's the worst quarterback in history. No one's calling him, but the guy can play if you gave him protection. The guy last year, I believe this guy that's here this year can play if you protect him.
The guy nobody in the league wants.
That's a big ask, though. It's a big ask with this particular unit.
But what if that is his Achilles heel, and the statistics are showing it?
It's a deadly combo. Give him some
right
time.
Now,
Ron has nobody to blame but himself for that.
Give him time. I agree with you.
I know, but
it's his Achilles heel.
Out of all the quarterbacks in the league,
going in,
only Russell Wilson seems to be more responsible for the pressures he's faced.
So listen,
I don't know how they judge that. They've got some nerds that are looking at every sack, right? And they're saying, this is the fault of the offensive line. This is the fault of the quarterback. What they have found for Washington is only 10 of the sacks are attributed to a blocker.
Understood.
So half they're going to give to the line or a running back or a tight end, whatever.
That's the point. Give them all to Sam. I don't care. Blame every single one on him. But in my opinion, you got to protect him better. You know that's his weakness.
Another thing, though, that I saw today, and I know we talked about this on Monday, he's like second lowest in the league for play-action passes, which is a way to actually...
Right. That's to scheme out of it, to help with
Exactly, to scheme out from the pressure. And for whatever reason, and I'm not putting it all on Howell, I'm putting some of that on Bieniemy. That Bieniemy, for whatever reason, right now, They're not calling play action passes, at least at the rate of most
You
teams.
know why they're not doing it? Because the play action takes time to develop. He doesn't have the time to go through.
If he's only getting 2.2
But the statistics
seconds.
belie that, Cakes.
Okay. Here's
Maybe
what I
for
know.
some teams.
Here's what I know. Ron knew that offensive line was a major question mark, and he bypassed it in the early parts of the draft. He said, "I'm going to pick two guys from my secondary instead."
He also signed
That
two
is on
guys.
Ron.
He also signed two guys in free agency. One guy with a huge injury history that everyone likes, but huge injury history, and another guy that just Bieniemy knew, but
Wiley is like
wasn't great statistically.
Wiley is the 6th-ranked offensive lineman on his own team, according to PFF.
That's
the guy
issue.
you're paying $8 million to.
Because here's the thing: when we all point to the draft, and I wish they would have drafted, but I like Manny Forbes. I wish they would have. But do we really think an offensive lineman in the first round is going to come in and be dominant? No. Like a rookie offensive lineman is going to struggle too.
I like Manny Forbes too, but he played 41% of the snaps last week. That's a little bit of a red flag for me at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, and the guy who was drafted after him, Gonzalez, I think it's Christian Gonzalez,
Christian
right?
Gonzalez for the
He's
Pats.
killing it right now in New England, in case you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
So Ron's personnel chops, they're under the microscope.
I'm pissed off right now.
Big time.
I'm just thinking about it. They butchered it with their free agent signings, and I wish they would have addressed it differently in the draft. But they've done it for a couple years. They've had good draft picks. Some of these guys can play, but they're not necessarily. You need to give your quarterback time around here.
Turns out Ron is bad at scouting quarterbacks and offensive linemen.
Sam Howell is currently 25th in the league in QBR, and he's 28th in actual passer
rating. And to JP's point,
how is that going to get significantly better with the way this offense is working right now?
Eric Bieniemy,
I don't know if we can.
Who I am glad he's here. He called a terrible game in my humble opinion. And I don't know anything, so you can take it and throw it in the trash. That's fine.
Well, they scored 3 points. I think it's proven he called a bad game.
Play calling was trash. They did not call that game in a way to get the most. Now, Howell didn't help him throwing it to the other team a bunch. No doubt.
He was culpable,
but help him.
I think they can help him. I said this on Monday, and it's not even if you're super successful running the football, but I think they can help them with a little more balance, running the football a little bit more. And then, this number jumped out at me. So it was Zach Kruger again who looked at play action. How many times do you think that they have run play action on the year?
The Commanders through 3 games?
Total number.
No, I think
under 10
7 times.
I think there's a
No,
second
it's more than that.
lowest.
It's 17 times. Only one quarterback has a lower rate of play action passes, and that's Andy Dalton so far.
Right. I told you, I went through the whole, there's a guy, youth football coach. He says, I'm a nothing. And he listed all these things you could do to buy more time for your quarterback when you're having these sets of issues that they're not doing.
He better
the
look into it,
misdirection stuff, the play action stuff, the screen game, all the quick game, all that stuff that they're not doing consistently.
I don't know anything either, but it does look like at least the Bills, all right, they're not really bringing that much extra pressure. It's not like they're blitzing 2 guys. They're just figuring that if they can get a little bit of pressure and they take away the short passes, that Sam's going to be confused and hold on to the ball, or he's going to make a bad decision. Like he threw one interception in the flat, he threw another one, which could have been.
Well, what do you think Philly's going to do?
The more I think about it, the more
they know that.
And they have better talent.
And you throw out the fact that, okay, you beat them in Philly last year. You think Philly isn't going to be thinking about that?
We're not making our official picks yet, but I'm picking a Philly bloodbath when we make our official picks.
Well, I'm doing an emotional hedge. I'm putting all my money on Philly. So this is good because if you think we're a big jinx or something, this
how
is
much
good.
are you putting on them?
Whatever I have in my account.
You're talking about the money line.
Yeah, they have like 150.
All right, 150.
I mean, I'm smelling like a 35,
$50.
It'll pay you $39.
35-7 type of outcome.
I mean, that could
That's what
happen.
I see in my crystal ball.
One thing is a lot of times the in-division games, the teams that know each other, the games end up closer than you think.
I mean,
I think Philly's going to be pissed off.
It is.
But, I mean,
I think Philly's going to be pissed off after losing to them last year.
of course.
Yeah, but they're due a letdown at 3-0.
I don't think so.
I'm just
I mean, they may be doing
They're not
something
going
else.
undefeated.
Due to play better. I don't think
You've
they're
already
gonna play
argued
better.
they've already had a couple letdowns.
They started off slow. Yeah. And even this game, look, what'd they score, 25?
Yeah, 25.
I'll say this.
They look kind of nubs.
I didn't watch the whole
against Bucs who
game.
scored 25.
They look nubs, except did you watch the last drive of the game?
I did not.
How about
they went
Baker scores
9 minutes.
All right,
Yeah.
Baker throws a touchdown pass.
Yeah.
Then they get a 2-point conversion. They're grasping, but they're down
Yeah.
with
25.
basically 10 minutes left. they're down 2 scores.
Yep.
So they're figuring, hey, if we get a stop, we get the ball back, score, we got a outside shot to win. We've seen greater comebacks like the Giants a couple weeks ago, okay? So all Philly did was run out the clock.
Right. I think Philly,
Over 9 minutes.
they're going to do whatever they want to the Commanders' defense. This highly touted Commanders' defense, I think they're just going to get taken to the woodshed this weekend. I don't see any scenario where they don't put up 28 or 30 points.
They've scored 25, 34, and 25.
Well, what if they do this,
And
Cakes?
they're starting off slow.
Right.
What if they just just put your run-stopping defense in there, and then that's why they drafted these corners and bulked up the secondary. And those guys got to win their matchup.
Well, they've been giving up big plays.
Good luck winning
You're not
against
gonna win
A.J.
them.
Brown and Devonta Smith.
But still, the quarterback has to deliver the ball.
So you're just saying roll the dice that way.
I would rather
I have
lose
confidence-
with Hurts beating us through the air than them rushing for 300 against us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That'll
they don't
make me puke.
They don't care. They're just going to run it down your throat
how about
anyway.
they're going to do both of those things? Jalen Hurts is going to beat them through the air, and Swift and Gainwell and Hurts are going to shove it on them on the ground.
Really, if you just simplify it all, they are 2-1, which is great. Nobody expected them to beat the Eagles. Even if they lose, they're at 2-2, which I think every fan would have taken through the first 4 games, knowing what the schedule is. And the quarterback is a young quarterback.
And the Bears are coming to town.
But what Jason
Week 5.
points out, the most basic of statistics, is a little problematic when your quarterback is in the bottom tier at QBR and passer rating. Hard to win games if that continues.
If you're going to beat the Eagles, Howell's going to have to play an A game.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
do you think he can play an A game against that defense?
He's had one A game. It was against a team that gave up 7.
if you protect him, he can play an A game against anybody.
But
I know, but that's part
that's
of
a big ask. That's my
team.
point.
But they haven't done the things they need to do to protect him.
Well, let's see what
Max
adjustments
protect,
they make.
Make adjustments. I
they
think
may
the
not
enemy's
be-
game called last week was an F.
They may not be physically
Wasn't great.
able to protect Sam Howell.
But
Like,
what if
no
they're-
matter what they do, no matter how they scheme it up, like that offensive
What if-
line might just be deficient.
But what if
No,
they
but
are
that's why you
protecting
bring
him enough?
extra guys.
On
If you
half
have
of these
extra guys, you
sacks,
can't do it, then you
Cakes,
shouldn't even play.
on half
Right.
of these sacks, now, I don't know if the receivers are open or not, but on half of these sacks, they're putting it on him, not the line.
Right.
Like the nerds, like Pro Football Focus, they're saying middle of the pack offensive line when it comes to pass blocking.
You know what else they're saying? If you take it, one reason why Howell, so I don't know if you listened yesterday, that through 2 weeks, we had the second most perfectly covered receivers in all of football.
Right. You
Yeah,
brought that up on Monday.
45, I kept bringing it up.
Yeah.
And
45% of the time,
That's a big problem.
our receivers, and I think they're great receivers,
That
are
confuses
perfectly
me,
Well, I
too.
heard
It confuses
Gruden.
me.
I heard Gruden. It might have been on with Chris Russell when I was driving around. Gruden said, and this was a rap against Scott Turner, but Gruden said a lot of times the receivers are in the same spot, like by
That was
design.
the whole thing we read in training camp.
I
is
know.
the spacing
But after
and-
the Denver game, we were saying totally different.
Right.
Because remember how wide open guys were across the field in
They
Denver?
gave up 70 against Miami.
Yeah, I think Buffalo had a lot to do with the fact that they were covered.
When I see receivers bunch
Their
up in the
defense
in the
is
same
good.
Yeah, but
spot,
that's
I
Adam
think
giving you
Donk,
through the first-
offensive coordinator.
Right.
When I see 2 wideouts like within 2 or 3 yards of each other, and one of them's putting their hands up, the other one's putting his hands up 2 yards behind him, I think Donk play caller. Now,
Well, that's what Gruden said.
It's early
And maybe it's
on
just
in
this
in
week.
the Eric Bieniemy phase here, but he's got to call a better game for Sam Howell if he wants any prayer of beating Philadelphia.
I'm
The game
just-
plan has to be better.
I'm just getting pissed because no quarterback is perfect, especially a fifth-round quarterback, right? So we've
I
identified.
thought you said you were going to quit calling him a fifth-round quarterback.
Well, no, because you guys, I'm just making a point.
Yes,
No
you have to
quarterback is
protect
perfect. Every quarterback has flaws. I actually think he has so many great attributes that you can build around, that he could be our guy. But if you know, he tends to hold the ball too long or whatever, you need to protect his ass. We had the same issue last
Well,
year.
Ron knew he held the ball too long when he drafted him. That was the rap on him coming out of college. So then you blame Ron for not drafting offensive lineman hire in said draft.
Yeah,
to
but
protect
my only
your quarterback.
I agree, Cakes, but my only caveat is rookies are all usually mediocre. Do I think a first-round pick is going to come in there and play like Jonathan Ogden right away? I don't know. The first-round pick will probably struggle too.
Hey, that's
Maybe
fine.
some are
but
better
you
than
know
others.
I think where they effed up is free agency. That's where they effed
It looks that way now. Yeah.
Wiley's spinning like a top every week.
But are you surprised? I mean, this is what Ron's done for 4 years. He's made bad decisions.
Right, exactly.
I don't know.
But here's the deal.
I'm getting pissed as I'm thinking about it.
If
Because
you
we're going to piss away a guy that can play.
if you lose to Philly, okay, everyone expected them to lose to Buffalo and Philly when we looked at the schedule.
Right.
Yep.
So that just means those next 3 opponents, which are going to be Chicago, Atlanta, and the Giants, all right, they're not as strong as those other 2 teams that we're talking about. You got to go 2-1. You have to. Or if not 3-0, you have to.
I know. I'm not even there yet, dude.
I'm
We got
just
a
saying.
long snapper that can't snap. We got a kicker that's inconsistent. We got an O-line that can't block. We got a play caller that's inconsistent. We got a quarterback that holds the ball too long.
And
we got a lot of issues.
Your long snapper, usually teams they just, hey, can you long snap? Come in here. Can you long snap off the street? Ron drafted a long snapper that has problems snapping the ball.
But EB, you knew that these were going to be the issues this year. You knew that before they played game 1. You knew that the offensive line was going to be an issue.
You
knew Sam Howell was inexperienced.
I know, but I said they can scheme around it. They can help them with screen. And they did it in week 2. We looked brilliant. Great.
They played
against
the
a bad team.
Broncos.
I know.
It's a bad
I'm
team.
not dumb. But they're still in the NFL. You guys are trashing the Cardinals
They
2
gave
weeks
up
ago.
70 points.
I still don't think the Cardinals are good.
I'm not saying they're good. They play hard, though.
They do, of course.
Yeah. They're not as bad as you guys were saying. I still think we're an 8 or 9 win team. I still think we can get there. Okay?
9?
I still think we can get there. But I don't think they're doing all that they can to make this team better.
I think they can get to 8 or 9 wins, but one of those wins will not be this weekend in Philadelphia. I just don't see any path for them improving enough to beat Philly on
It
the
would
road
almost
this
be a
weekend.
stunner if they won that game.
We're gonna
massive
look
stunner.
like complete fools if they pull off the upset.
Okay,
You're gonna play all this audio next week.
Why? Most people are picking Philly.
Right.
Find me some people who are picking Washington to win this week. Find them.
Good luck.
Go ahead.
Good luck
They're
finding
just
those people.
HTTC guys, but yeah.
They truly don't believe
I want to
that.
go to the phone.
Charles Leno right now, according to PFF, ranked 23rd amongst tackles. Andrew Wiley, 28th.
Right.
It's actually better than you'd expect because got 64 starters, right? They're in the top 30.
They're in the middle of the pack somehow. I don't know what the permutations are or the math behind it.
I'm going to check the guards.
Eric's also pissed because the Jets didn't call Carson Wentz. They called Trevor Siemian. He's more pissed about that than Sam Howell not getting protected.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb to think that
He wants to book a
journeyman is
guest
better than
to
Wentz.
talk about Carson Wentz.
All right.
I didn't
He
say
won't
that.
let it go. Yeah, you
I didn't
did.
say that.
All right, let's go to a couple calls.
Jason did. Jason said book him. Let's go to
I like Ross Tucker.
I already texted him, waiting on the response.
Yeah, I like Ross.
Let's go to Aaron in Suitland. Aaron, what's up?
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Look, one of the points that I wanted to make is on the offensive line. If we look at in practice, they're going against, I guess, what's supposed to be a premier defensive line, and I don't understand why we didn't see the problems that they have. One of the solutions that we need is he just needs to go 1,001, 1,002 run. When they talk
You
about
should run more. I agree with that.
One Mississippi, two Mississippi.
right.
Same thing with Heineke last year. That was my criticism of Heineke.
So when they talk about him holding the ball too long, you guys remember in the fourth quarter when he threw that dart to Samuels on the sideline? He was freaking covered. I couldn't believe he made that throw. One more last point. I think that the team knows that he's under duress, right? So the one interception in the end zone, I kind of give some of the blame to the wide receiver because he should have came back. Also, the interception to Gibson in the flat, I kind of give him a little bit of the blame too because he felt the pressure to defend. He should have came back to the ball.
Man, you're giving Sam Howell a lot of passes on those picks.
Listen, he had a bad game. There's no doubt about it. He owns it. But they could help him. They could help him more than what they are. That's all I'm saying.
By the way, on a side note,
and they knew it coming in.
Side note: if Ritter keeps struggling in Atlanta, you're going to see Heineke under center in a game or two.
Yes.
I don't understand.
Well, Ritter was really good 2 weeks ago.
Well, he
didn't put up huge numbers. He wasn't good this past
against
week.
the Lions.
Here's a basic question. Our offensive line, and if you want to say they're great, it's the run, whatever it is not providing that nice pocket. Like you saw Josh Allen, he had all day those pockets.
Biggest pocket ever.
What was the clip I was watching where the guy had
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts all day to throw?
Mm-hmm. That was on the touchdown pass he was talking about,
So
which was almost an interception.
Why are we doing 5 and 7 step drops when we don't have those pockets? Why are we doing? Why did you call that?
You'd have to ask Jay Gruden that.
You have to ask the namesake.
I don't know
the enemy.
anything. It just seems like a common sense thing.
For what it's worth, I just looked at the starting offensive line for the Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Cosmi is actually ranked 6th amongst all guards.
All guards. All right.
Charles is 25th. That's top half, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, all the guys are in the top half. Gates, not Gates because he's 23rd out of 32 starting centers, right? So Gates is 23rd. I told you Leno 23rd, Wiley 28th. Like they're grading out.
No, that's not that great.
Decent.
We told you that
No,
the
Gates
outside,
was bad.
The outside guys are worse than the interior guys.
Okay, but what I'm saying is they're graded as the top
Middle.
half of tackles in the NFL.
Okay. I mean,
Top 50%.
So they're average. They're average.
We need to be better than that.
And Cosmi's
We need to
really
be better
good.
than
All
that.
right,
Cosmi's good.
But
we got
for
a
the most part, they're
quarterback making his
average.
fourth start.
Correct.
And that's them being graded against non-Jalen Carter and Fletcher Cox.
Yeah, let's revisit
Wait till
the
we
grades.
see what happens when they
let's
face
revisit
them.
the grades after this week. All right.
I don't think the grades are going to be great.
Just giving you a little
pissed off.
context.
I'm just pissed off.
No.
I
can't
because
tell.
the more I think about it, it's infuriating.
I think the Commanders' line grades going to be like my AP chemistry grades in high school. Very disappointing.
You need a grade on a curve.
Yeah, like they're really bad grades.